Salut survivors! Welcome back to SolutOdka channel in Medieval Dynasty guide series. Today is a new episode of the Is It Worth It series. We will be going back to wear our cook's gloves, but this time with our baker's outfit as well. And we will do a detour through our cheese fermenting cave. You got it, we will be tackling today the kitchen tier 2. So, for this kitchen tier 2 video guide, I will split it into 3 parts. Part 1, comparative analysis of the various products. Part 2, a small dive into the flour production. And Part 3, my assessment and recommendations. If you have any questions or suggestions, please do not hesitate to leave a message in the comment section down below. Now, let's go straight to the video. Part 1, comparative analysis of the various products. So here, last time we did not consider these ones. Here, all of these breads at the baker, and we focus mostly on the cauldron and the grate here. Now, let's go, as usual, in the analysis Excel file. Here we are. So, compared to last time, I have added the different raw materials or ingredients we need for our baking and cooking. We still have our previous version, and we now have our kitchen 2 products. As you can see, we have the oat roll, rye bread, wheat bread, multigrain bread, many breads, the veggie soup, and the cheese. One mistake I did last time is the scrambled eggs with mushroom were not in the kitchen tier 1, but in the kitchen tier 2, in fact. Anyway, no real big winner at this stage. In the version A, we have the wheat bread with a 156% profit and multiple ones between 100 to 150%. Maybe to be noticed is that the vegetable soup, the veggie soup, it's not really good with 76% only. Now that's the version A, and that's because I did a version B. Now this version B, as usual, is in order to compare the final product from the raw product. And a lot is about the flour. So let's have a little dive into the flour. And here we are for the flour study. So we can produce flour either from oat grains, rye grains, or wheat grains. And we can do that on the windmill, or we can do that at the barn. Here, yeah, it's a typo. It's not windmill, it's at the barn. So at the barn, with your oat grain and rye grains, you will produce 10 flour, and with the wheat grain, you will produce 12 flour. While at the windmill, for the same raw materials, you will produce respectively 12 flour from oat and rye, and you will produce 15 from the wheat. Now, based on this, we can compare the flour efficiency, and basically when you are at the barn, the wheat grain flour production will be less efficient than the oat and the rye. You will lose in value. However, when it comes to the windmill, we have the same when you look at it in a value perspective. Now, if you're looking in terms of number of actions, if you need to produce, say, 1,000 flour, you will require less actions if you produce the flour from your wheat grain. So depending on your game settings, you can have an advantage to produce flour from the wheat grain once you are at the windmill level. Now, based on this, we could say that the value of the flour is not anymore 4 coins, as it is by default in the game, in a version A. Now in a version B, you can say that the flour would have a value of 2 coins because you would produce 12 flour from 6 grains of oat or rye, and you would produce 15 flour from 6 grains of wheat. And this results, if you look at it on the raw material from the raw rye, oat or wheat, in a 2 coins per flour. And here leads to the version B that we can see here. This version B is utilizing the raw ingredients, meaning that all the flour value here is changed from 4 value in an ingredient to a 2 coins value as an ingredient. And for the cheese, similar analysis. Normally the cheese is 1 quark and 1/10 of a bucket of milk. However, 1 quark is produced from 1/10 of a bucket of soured milk, which itself is coming from 1/10 of a bucket of milk. Hence, you can consider that a cheese raw material product is not 1 quark and 1/10 of a bucket of milk. You can say it is 2/10 of a bucket of milk. Now, when you look at it this way, in terms of initial raw material to finished product in this version B, then you have a much better profit compared to the version A. And 3 items specifically stick out. You have the wheat bread with a 244%. You have the white bread with a 233% profit. And you have the cheese with a 267% profit. That are really the 3 best products you can do to generate income from your kitchen tier 2. And this is assuming that you are producing the flour at a ratio provided from the windmill, not from the barn. Now we need to compare a little bit these best products, and this leads to my assessment and recommendation. Okay, so here we can see that in order to produce 1,000 coins in value from a wheat bread, you need 25 breads. If you want to produce this much value from a white bread, you will need 45.5 breads. And for the cheese, you will need 20 cheese. Here are the equivalent ingredients it will cost you. From this comparison, in my opinion, the white bread is not very good. It's only an alternative if you're not yet producing wheat. However, in this assumption here at the tier 2, you are producing a lot of flour from your windmill, as we did in the version B, and therefore you do produce wheat. Therefore, the white bread is not that good. Better go for the wheat bread compared to the white bread, because the wheat bread will consume a lot less eggs, water, flour for the addition of a couple of wheat grains. Therefore, the wheat bread, in my opinion, is a good product to generate income. We'll go look at it a bit after. Now, the cheese is, in my opinion, the big star. It's fantastic. As I wrote here, it's a no-brainer. As long as you have milk production, it is fantastic. Let's have a quick look, for example, at my cow shed. Now, if you look at my cow shed, here, animals, cow shed, there it is. So I have 8 cows in my cow shed. I have animal breeder skills 8, quite advanced. I put one of my best animal breeders here, obviously. And when you look at it, I am producing 16 buckets of milk per day. As we mentioned earlier, 1 bucket of milk is equivalent to 5 cheeses. Remember, every cheese is 0.2 bucket of milk. So 1 bucket of milk is 5 cheese, meaning that 16 buckets of milk is equivalent to 80 cheese per day. And we only need 20 cheese to produce an equivalent value of 1,000 coins. More or less, this animal breeder and his 8 cows is producing daily the equivalent value of 4,000 coins, 12,000 coins per season. So of course, he's farming skill 8, but at this stage of the game, you should have some farmers with a relatively high skill level. Therefore, this cheese is really, really fantastic. It's just brilliant. One thing you need to be careful is that basically the bucket of milk will turn sour at the end of every season. Therefore, on the last day of every season, you should produce your cheese, unless you have a cook or a baker in your kitchen. And then I had already prepared before. For example, here we have our 25 wheat bread at 40 coins a piece in value, meaning 1,000 value for 25 bread. And we have our 20 cheeses at the value of 50. And these 20 cheeses costed only 2 buckets of milk in equivalent. In a sense, it's 1 bucket of milk and 1 bucket of soured milk. And I produce a lot. Therefore, these cheeses, for your information, in my market, somewhere here, let's go there quickly together. So where is the food vendor? They are all selling fishing spears, but now we have a cheese vendor. Okay, it's not here yet, it's too early for her. Let's look. Services, food stall. Here, my food stall is selling 53 cheeses per day. But as mentioned earlier, I'm producing 80, virtually 80 per day. Therefore, this stallholder is constantly selling cheeses with no problem. Now, as you can notice here, of course, Rudolfina, right? Is it? No, Grimilda. Grimilda does not have bartering skill. So Grimilda sells at half of the value. And in order to generate the 1,300 coins per day, she needs to sell 53 cheese for that. But it's okay. She's doing a good job. And people here can get cheese. I will see when my eggs production to maybe produce bread in larger quantities and also sell bread here. For now, the bread, I will eat it with some cheese. Now, I will focus more on honeycombs, I think, for the stamina regeneration. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Is It Worth It analysis video series, and that you will start producing bread and cheese real soon. On that note, let's toast to the like and subscribe buttons. I appreciate very much the support. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next videos. Cheers!